Welcome back to another episode of Lit&Bruised, an Atlanta literary podcast. I'm Matt DeBenedictis.
And I'm John Carroll. On this episode, we had Atlanta literary legend Jason Mallory. You might know Jason from shows such as Scene Missing and Song Missing, and even his latest show with writer and actor Julian Modugno, Mallory and Modugno Present. This is a really fun episode, Matt. I think that one of the funniest things about it was watching Jason dodge He Who Must Not Be Named.
Yes, made it till the end of the episode.
We never actually said his name, though, and if you're not sure who this person is, just listen into the episode. I think you'll pick up who we're talking about.
We hope you enjoy the episode.
Jason, I've been admiring your shirt since you got in here. I just thought it looked really rad, and then at the bottom I saw that it said Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
And people tell me, or people ask me often when we're talking about TV shows, like, hey, do you ever watch Rick and Morty? And I just look at them and I say, I don't watch cartoons. Mm-hmm. And it's not that I have anything against cartoons. I just don't watch cartoons. It's just kind of, I need like a storyline. I struggle with just like kind of standalone things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I've never asked this, what is the big deal
with Rick and Morty?
With Rick and Morty? Like, what is it?
Well, first off, there is a lot of story going on.
Yeah, like you watch Rick and Morty, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm more interested in why you don't watch any cartoons. You don't watch any cartoons? You don't watch, like, Akira or, like...
What's Akira?
You've never seen Cowboy Bebop? You've never seen Studio Ghibli stuff?
Is that anime?
Yeah, for the most part.
I don't even know where I would go to find anime. I guess I could just, like... find on YouTube or
literally go where you get all other
it's like on
movies.
Netflix.
Yeah, man, there's a ton of stuff.
I have
You're aware of your computer, right?
Yeah, I am. But in terms of like streaming it, I don't have to like go download something.
Yeah.
I think that I've never watched cartoons for so long on Netflix that it just like removed the cartoons out of my queue.
You know what anime you should watch is Paprika. You seen Paprika?
No, I have not.
Paprika is this anime. I feel like it's a great introduction to anime from people who don't normally watch it because it's very much an adult movie, and it's a thoughtful movie, and it's about dreams and it's about symbolism, but it's also very contemporary. Inception, that movie Inception by Christopher. People have actually sort of insinuated that he lifted a lot of his concepts about Inception from Paprika. And then, of course, you got Cowboy Bebop, which is one of the greatest animes of all time, about a bunch of space bounty hunters. And then you got, Rick and Morty, which is not an anime necessarily, but, it's like a science fiction. It's got all the good stuff in there. It's got science fiction. It's got comedy. It's got a lot of philosophy in there. The fan base right now is really not doing so hot. It's very
Didn't they have like a sauce at McDonald's that everybody got really mad because they couldn't try the sauce?
By the time this is airing, that whole sauce thing, it'll be 11 cycles later. You know what I mean? Like, people will have forgotten about that sauce thing. But the thing about the Rick and Morty fan base right now, which I don't completely understand, is I genuinely love the show. Now, this shirt that I'm wearing is nerdy as hell, and it's from Loot Crate, which is this service that like sends out nerd stuff to you.
Yeah,
like they send you a box every month,
like a box of Firefly stuff.
Yeah, and you get like a shirt and a pen and all this stuff. But the problem is that the shirts are so incredibly nerdy that like I can't wear them most of the time. Like even this shirt, I like second guess it. Like when I put it on, I'm like, oh, like maybe I shouldn't wear this shirt out because it looks fucking nerdy as hell.
I thought it looked cool. I don't understand.
Cool.
I don't understand anything about it.
Well, it's an interesting shirt because there's no, the characters aren't on it.
Yeah, it's the tech side of what's some of the main things that are used for dimensional travel.
But when I took this shirt to Dragon Con, which is, the sci-fi convention, nerd, cosplay convention here in Atlanta, when I wore this shirt, I looked around and like every 5 minutes, because it's Loot Crate and because they're mass produced, and they send them out all over the country, all these motherfuckers were wearing same shirt.
It was like wearing Nike in high school.
It was like Cherry, my girlfriend, would like poke me and just be like, "There's your shirt again." there he goes. And it would always be like some like, I mean, I don't want to say anything like mean about, but
somebody who lived in their mom's basement.
I mean,
there's got to be some like other like DIY loot crates for Rick and Morty. There has to be.
Yeah.
I'm on a couple different Simpsons ones that are through Instagram, so I get like different shirts that are not found anywhere else. There's only 50 of them made.
Yeah. And the thing too is like I'm such a special little guy that like I feel like I'm like, well, I want to have a cool shirt that nobody else is wearing. So at Dragon Con, that was very irksome to me because I was just like, well, if everybody's wearing this shirt, I don't want to be wearing it. Like I want to look cool.
Right. I like the plain black T-shirt game.
Yeah. Black on black's great. Black jeans, black T-shirts are great.
It's fine, and if you see somebody else with it, you kind of give them like that head nod.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, me too.
Yeah,
but you don't have to like worry about anybody biting each other's game.
I mean, you guys are wearing black right now. Black is it black shorts too? What are we?
I'm khaki shorts.
I'm wearing all black.
Okay.
I mean, I'm in my lounging around attire is typically all black. So,
but yeah, no, I mean, black on black's a great look. My one more thing about these Loot Crate shirts is that I
feel like you're sponsored by Loot Crate.
It was the opposite. I'm actually saying not good things about Loot Crate because I'm like, even though I like the concept, it's like, okay, so that show The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
So, like, there's that character Negan, and he's got that barbed wire baseball bat that he's always swinging around.
Yeah, Lucille.
So all of a sudden, Loot Crate started sending me like all these like Negan shirts.
Weird.
And they're like him, like holding up his big old bloody bat, with barbed wire and stuff. I just wanted like a cool looking Ninja Turtle shirt.
I can't imagine you wearing a Negan shirt.
A Negan shirt, it's got blood splatter on it. Like it's like real like. I don't know. So now it's become my undershirt whenever I go to work. Like whenever I go to the office, like I've got all these. Like if you see me in a corporate setting, I'm very likely wearing a Negan shirt underneath my dress shirt. So
that's kind of like your way to kind of feel just like, yeah, I'm just a little rebellious with this shirt that's overdone.
That would be pretty cool, but it's actually more like I have to protect my dress shirt from the rest of my body. And Negan is my last defense between the sweats that come out of my body after walking around Atlanta, all day. So I guess ultimately the takeaway from this is, I just wish Loot Crate. You know what I wish Loot Crate would do? I wish they would straight up. This is impossible, an impossible dream.
Yeah,
but I wish they would send just one shirt. And there's like a thing in there, and it's like, hey, this is the only shirt out there that looks like this. And you got it.
So, like, only one for everybody.
I want a special shirt in every box. Yeah, that's my perfect world.
Man. I feel like you and I have a very, like, two-dimensional relationship, Jason.
Okay.
I feel like when I see you, we talk about two things. We usually kind of drone on about, we might have a conversation like this where we're just talking about something pop culture related, where we're talking about like marketing or business things.
Sure.
I think that's like what we do.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are the things that I like to talk about anyway. And I feel like those are the things that you like to talk about. But it's always kind of amusing because like you'll see some people and you'll have, all kinds of kind of different conversations. But I feel like you and I know exactly where we stand with one another. We're like, we're going to talk about pop culture or we're going to talk about fucking Facebook ads.
I mean...
and I love it. I mean, that's not a knock against our relationship.
Yeah.
It's a great friendship. I'm like, hey, there's Jason. I'm fucking like talk about Shredder for a while. And then I'm going to talk about maybe like what the hell's going on with LinkedIn.
I guess I do. I do focus on those two things a lot, I mean,
me too.
I dislike social media right now though. I dislike advertising on social media. I dislike Facebook. I dislike their ad system. I dislike the Twitter ad system. I feel like it's really taking it. Here, you know what? Can I just go off for a minute on this?
Clear your chest.
Like here's what I think is happening. I think that the greed of these companies is taking advantage of artists and performers like no one has in decades. Like it's the biggest scam in history. Because think about every city has a ton of aspiring musicians, has a ton of aspiring artists, has a ton of aspiring this and that, all in the creative community, and they all want to reach other people. And maybe their work is garbage, and maybe their work is good, but they're all being scammed equally by Facebook, Twitter, anyone who has an advertising platform that appeals to creatives who want to have reach.
Yeah.
And it's a lie. The system is a lie right now because they're telling you that you're getting impressions. They're telling you that you're getting eyeballs. They're like, oh, thousands of people have viewed this, and each and every one of them, for some reason, somehow chose not to interact with this. And it doesn't make any sense, because even if something is garbage, somebody wants to weigh in on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, that's what's interesting to me is, this whole ad system that's in place right now, where all these creatives are putting their hopes and dreams on, getting likes for their Facebook fan page or getting these ads out there.
And it's just throwing rain in a bucket.
It's throwing rain in a bucket, exactly. And I don't even think Facebook shows these ads to who they say they're showing them to.
Yeah.
Because there's no one to hold them accountable. Who's going to hold them accountable? These poor-ass artists who are using their last dollars on the system?
How can you check it?
You can't.
There's no fact-checking with it.
There's no fact-checking. There's no verification system. And people like us, people who are trying to put on shows, people who are writing articles, people who are putting out music, podcasts, all that stuff, it's the greatest, well, not the greatest, but it's one of the greatest scams in recent years, I would say. And nobody's saying shit about it because they don't even realize most of the time that they're being duped. A lot of times what artists will do is they'll buy these ads and then they'll fucking get no response. And so they'll just be like, oh, people must not like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or my stuff must not be good enough. But in reality, Facebook is taking their money and being like, yeah. Oh, yeah, this is a real cool album you just put out. I'll make sure and show it to thousands of people. Yeah. And yet there's no engagement. There's no response. And that's where I really suspect the trickery is because you're telling me, let's say that you put out a shitty album, right? Let's say you put together an album that just sucks. Okay?
This could happen. If I put out an album, it's most likely going to suck. But
and let's say you buy, you spend $200 with the iTunes link. I mean, what is it even? Like a SoundCloud link, maybe? Let's say you spend $200 and Facebook's like, all right, cool, we're going to show 22,000 people. I can bet you that you're going to run that ad and get fucking no comments, maybe a few likes, but even those likes will be attached to really weird sounding names or strange profiles, and then you click on the profile and there's nothing going on there. And it's because they're just flooding that shit with fake ass profiles. I know I'm kind of going on and on about this, but I'm so sick of creatives being taken advantage of.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with we're kind of in a penny culture right now. I mean, you take a look at the music industry. I mean, people are making money from streaming, but it takes 2-3 years to really pull in that money. Someone can have record label people who have our label has done over $1 million in our streaming, but it took 2 years to get that kind of stuff. So it's no longer that big payday.
Yeah.
And it's that's kind of where the state we're all in. We're all trying to get pennies and dimes here. There's no big payoff anymore.
Yeah, and that's the big lie of the internet is these companies are constantly telling you how you can strike it rich, using their platforms. But really, the only money these days for creatives is in things that have nothing to do with the internet, like live shows, ticket sales, merch. I mean, when I say they have nothing to do with the internet, I mean that the actual product is consumed in real space. Mm-hmm. You go to a show, you pay a ticket, you go to it, you buy a T-shirt there, that kind of thing. That to me seems to be one of the last ways to generate revenue for creatives, because otherwise it's everybody's like, oh, you should start a Patreon. Suck my dick. You fucking go to Patreon, right? And then you get in there. First of all, Patreon, they want you to they're like, make a video.
What's Patreon? I'm not familiar with. Patreon
is the system where if you're a creative, you can set up your little Patreon page, right? And then you go over there, and if you like an article that you wrote and you have a Patreon link, I can click on it and I can donate to you as a kind of a tip jar.
Okay.
It's essentially working for tips. But here's the thing is, 99% of people who have a Patreon page are never going to get shit. They're never going to get nobody, even if they love your article, they're never going to give you money. The way people make money on Patreon is by hustling by an insane amount. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, or if you're like a cam girl, you know what I mean? Like, they're utilizing Patreon right now because, don't ask me how I know this, but the point is, I put myself in hot water here. But
does Cherry know that you like? You're looking a little red there.
I'm sure if I went on camgirl sites, Cherry would just laugh at me. But the point being, though, that
we watched them together.
Like, PayPal shuts out all these porn accounts and all that stuff. Patreon's one of the last ways to make money off of adult content online. But that's also getting away too from the bigger issue, which is like it's the big lie. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, just get a Patreon. So now you're doing twice as much work because the pressure is on you to not only be the creator, not only you to make this album, but it's also on you to be your own promoter. It's also on you to be your own graphic designer. It's on you to like manage your own transactions. Everyone who's in the creative arts right now is forced to be their own small business. And it is, again, one of the biggest scams because the people who are actually making money off all of us are these just fucking don't give a fuck companies like Facebook and Twitter and all these places that are just like, suck my dick, like.
Are you afraid over time that this could kind of basically kill like a lot of the creative productivity?
No, because I feel like there's always going to be some rube. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, what if we all get sick of putting all this stuff out and dealing with these systems? Because make no mistake about it, we are beholden to these systems.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can talk shit on this podcast about Facebook all I want, but guess where you going to post it? Facebook.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is one of the worst systems I've ever seen. I never imagined pre-internet, because I used to be, back in the day, I was like, I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a comedian. I'm going to perform. Like when I was 18, I was in theater. I was like, just fell in love with performing. And the only thing that has ever made me reconsider that has been this current system that we're in right now with all these sites that we're beholden to.
Yeah, it's funny though. It was a few years ago, at least on Instagram, it was so pure because Facebook didn't own it yet. Yeah. And it was rad. Like, you could just post things and people would see it, and you could build audiences, and they could just see your stuff, because they weren't being, there wasn't an ad system in place that kept them from seeing it. It was kind of the wild, wild west, and it was amazing. And I knew it was going to come to an end. And I feel like in the last 2 months, they finally just locked that shit down. I mean,
really?
It is. I feel like in the last 2 months, it is gone over the limit. Like, Instagram is fucked now. It is not. There is no purity left on Instagram.
Really? So what's going on with Instagram? Because Instagram is one of my last few sites that I don't despise. I
mean, I love it.
I just live on Instagram stories.
Yeah, I mean, the stories are cool, but here's the thing. In terms of like engagement and growing an audience, as an artist trying to do that, like, I feel bad at anybody who's starting an Instagram account right now. Like,
well, you mean like as an individual, like a personal individual, or a business?
As an artist who's trying to put their work out in the world.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Like, because it's so oversaturated now, and they limit the engagement that people can see of your pieces, or the reach of your pieces, so that takes away from the engagement. And, if you have 10,000 followers on Instagram, when you do a post, probably organically, about 700 of them will see it.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of fucked up because, I think, organically back when the feed ran in chronological order, you probably had a good chance that maybe 15 to 20% of them would see it. But you're trying to tell me that only like 7% are going to see it?
If that.
Yeah, if that. I mean, that's fucked up. And it's because they make it, that's why they took away the chronological feed. So you'd have to pay for ads to get exposure on your things that you post. So I'm with you, man. I mean, well,
that's the larger issue too. Is going against all the noise of the internet right now. I mean, that's another thing I never. Again, when I was 18, that was back in 1996. Which was truly pre-internet. Like, granted the internet existed, but like it hadn't hit that year 2000 boom.
Yeah.
Remember when everybody. Yeah, started to get that computer. Like right now, though, like the noise, the creative noise right now is deafening. Like, you're competing with everyone, and everyone wants their voice to be heard. Whether they're a comedian or an artist or just a regular old dude who thinks he's funny or somebody who just, like... I guess what I'm trying to say is like right now, like again, this hypothetical album of yours, and let's say it's brilliant. Actually, let's say you make this brilliant album.
It's really good.
You know, how are you going to have that album heard in the middle of all this noise if you don't have connections or a network with someone who is powerful enough to give you a larger audience and access to a larger audience? If you haven't networked with people who fucking like what you're doing, but you are brilliant, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, you got to have that nonstop hustle every single piece of the way.
And a lot of artists, that hustle doesn't come instinctively to them, and nor should it.
I would say most artists, because working as a marketing consultant, and I work with small brands and artists and entrepreneurs, they just wanted to make something. They're like, hey, I want to put out this album. I want to like sell T-shirts. I want to make dresses. I want to make art. They're not even thinking about that shit, and they barely teach you that shit in school.
Yeah.
So you get out in the real world, and then you're like, hey, I made a print, and everybody's like, cool, whatever. They just move on down the road because you got to put it out in front of them, and that's the thing that I teach people a lot is how to do that in a way that's, not going to make you pull your hair out and make you also not turn into feel like you're like a 24 hours a day infomercial, and it's difficult. And I feel bad for those people because I was more inclined to the business and marketing side than the art side when I first got started out, because that's just kind of what I did. That's what I liked. And then I kind of discovered art along the way. And it was easier for me to do it because I already had that understanding. So I just try to help people out in general because I just feel bad. I'm like, hey, it's not impossible. It is a lot harder now, but it's not rocket science, and even to do it just on a small level, even if it's just locally,
I mean, I've been doing this for years, and to me, now more than ever, it feels like rocket science. It does. Like, yeah. I remember promoting shows here, like promoting this Lit show, which eventually turned into a variety show that I used to run, Scene Missing, and its counterpart, Song Missing. It really made me reevaluate my relationship to the exclamation mark because I would never really know how to post copy on my personal page about it other than come see blah, 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 exclamation mark, or I'm doing this, da, 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 exclamation mark, or we've got, and so it's like it was turning me into a carnival barker.
Yeah. As well as it just kind of feels like static.
It feels like static. Yeah, as soon as you see that exclamation mark, it's like you're trying to rustle up excitement about something, but so is everybody else on the planet. So eventually an exclamation mark means nothing, and eventually a declarative statement like that, like, hey, come check this thing out, means absolutely nothing. It's less than nothing because the eye is trained. As soon as you see, I feel like as soon as people see the words come to,
yeah, like
they just fucking tune that shit out, and so like it's putting this pressure on all of us just to constantly rethink. Well, now how do I... So it's like, it's not enough to have the thing and be good at the thing and put the thing out. Now, you've also got to be like, well, how am I going to stand out against all these other people? And it's just like, the biggest psychological challenge to me right now as an artist is not doubting my own work. It's not writer's block. It's not any of that stuff. It's the day-to-day fucking battle of like figuring out how I'm gonna like fight this noise.
Oh, that's hustle exhaustion.
Exactly. It is exhausting.
Yeah.
And you've probably had your own experiences with it.
That's why I've dipped out of the creative community at times. I've like taken a break for like a year, just like don't go to events, don't produce anything, because it's just like I need just a break from a lot of the hustle, and it's just like I feel like I'm a cartoon character right now.
Yeah, exactly. It feels,
and not a real funny one.
Yeah. It's like it drives you crazy, and I know I sound kind of overwhelmingly negative right now, and that's not my intention.
No, I don't think you're negative. I think you're just.
I think this is also the result of having three guys in marketing on a podcast together.
Yeah, seriously. I think you're just being honest about it, and that's how you feel. And I definitely have felt that way. I think when I feel that way, I just like stop. I think what it is for me is that I just don't have any expectations of things anymore. I try my best not to, at least. I just go, I'm going to put this thing out in the world. Hopefully people want to buy it. They want to come out. They want to blah, 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 and let the cards, let the chips fall where they may.
And that's the art of not giving a fuck.
Yeah, that's all. And that's all I got. Because here's what I come back to. I want to do something just because I want to fucking do it. Like, I create things because I like to. And I realize that, we all got full-time jobs here. None of the shit I do is ever going to pay my bills, like, creatively. I'm still going to fucking do it, though. I like it. I love the shit that I do. I fucking love it. I love this goddamn podcast. I just like it. And why do I like it? Because I get to talk to people like you, get to hang out with Matt, and get to showcase talent and rad people in Atlanta. And you know what? Our demographic's 200 people. So, but that's fine. Like it's okay. So that's where that's where I go in my mind to get over the exhaustion of it, because I think to myself, you know what? I just want to do this. I love this so much. And so where it does become disheartening when you do something really rad and you're like, there should be fucking 500 people at this thing because this is how cool this is. And then you get 50 and you're like, well, at least 50 people saw it,
I mean, well, I'm having an interesting experience with that this year, and I had to kind of readjust my thinking specifically because of that kind of thing, because, I ran Scene Missing and Song Missing for, I guess, about 3 years.
Yeah.
And, our very first show, I think we had about 100-something people, and then, we would consistently fill out the venues that we were in. Sometimes we would have shows where people would be like trying to get in, we had to turn them away.
That's amazing.
And it was a great experience. And so, and during
not for them.
I mean, it was it was
should have bought your ticket online.
Should have bought your ticket online,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And it was an incredible experience because I was very proud. It was a very proud achievement for me to be able to fill these venues month after month, especially if we had, sometimes the shows have been in a week of each other and I would be in front of packed crowds, 2 weeks apart from each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually, though, what ended up happening was I got real burnout, and these shows were fan service, so we'd have a show about Star Wars, and we'd have a show about the Gilmore Girls, we'd have a show about, Taylor Swift, that kind of stuff. And so people would see that and they would come out because they're a fan of that person.
Yeah.
So it's not like they would come out to see Scene or Song Missing.
Yeah.
They were essentially coming out to
because they like those things.
They like those things.
Topics.
Yeah. Now, granted, when they got there, we put on a hell of a show for them. We had burlesque, we had fire eaters, we had lit, people reading. It was one of the few shows in towns where you could see all of these things under one roof,
I used to love to recommend people to go to those because it was just you want to see everything that, that is possible around the idea of literature in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Go to there.
Well, those were always the two shows, though. It was go to Right Club and go to Scene and Song Missing. If you want to have, you want to be in a literary community, be in an entertainment community, and see something that you probably haven't seen before, you want to go to these shows because everything else isn't as exciting.
Well, I don't even want to. You know what I mean? I don't even want to say isn't as exciting.
Well, I'm saying that. So you didn't. Hey, you didn't say it.
I appreciate that. That you guys felt that way about the show.
Totally.
So then 3 years happen, and then I just get burnout.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm going too hard. It's one person running two shows, although that's actually not entirely true because Chris Ledford and Noel Hart and Jesse Neiswanger, those guys were instrumental in Song Missing. They all work very hard, so I can't actually claim that one.
But you were at the helm. I mean... Yeah.
I was a showrunner. I guess I just wanted to make sure that there's no ambiguity about their roles in the show because they were instrumental and they were very hard workers and it was an amazing team, and I love those guys. So I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't I ran Song Missing all by myself, It just it wasn't that way. Like Chris and I, especially, we're a team, No,
but when you are the showrunner, you're the top of it. You still have a weight that you have to carry on,
right? Because
which gets heavier.
I had to worry about the financials. I had to worry about ticket sales. I had to worry, all these extra things that we were talking about earlier. All this like hustle fatigue, I guess. So then, at the end of the 3 years, I was like, well, I'm putting an end to these shows, and then I'm gonna work on the type of comedy and the type of writing that I want to do. So I reached out to Julian Modugno, who had hosted Scene Missing before as a guest host, been on it many times, very good friends. I'm like, let's team up. Let's make a show. So we came up with Modugno Mallory Present, right?
So when did you guys start that?
God, I think January, February of this year. So it's been, I think we've had about 5 or 6 shows. 6 or 7 maybe. And here's the thing though. So I was like, well, I've been running this thing for 3 years. I got a huge network of people. Got a bunch of fans on the fan page for Facebook. Like, people know, like at this point, I feel like I've established myself, and I feel like people are going to trust me to put on a good show. So I was like, all right, cool. Modugno Mallory is going to fucking rock. It's going to be the writing that we want to do. It's going to be real weird, strange, surreal comedy.
I know where this is going.
First show, shit. I mean, did we even get 20 people? Like, that was the thing. It was like I had made this big decision based on my burnout that I'm like, if I'm going to be working on stuff, I want to work with, I want to partner up with Julian. We got the same comic sensibilities. We brought Chris Ledford back in for some shows. We were still working with the same people that we love to work with, bringing in all these comedians and all this stuff. And the audience just was not showing up. And it was such a bucket of cold water to the face because I was like, I've been entertaining y'all for 3 years. I've been giving you my blood, sweat, and tears. Y'all can't trust me to even just show up? You can't, like, just fucking roll the dice a little bit and be like, Scene Missing was great. Where the fuck are the ticket sales? And so, like, over this year, over 2017, I've been working with Julian, and we've been hustling on the same show. But, like, that's been the toughest part of this year, is just being like, well, shit, how do you sell people on an original idea? How do you, instead of doing fan service, instead of paying tribute to Jar Jar Binks one more month, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you get people interested? And it's still a question that Julian and I are figuring out. Like, we've definitely got some people who have come out for the show and come through and been really cool and supportive. And, like, that's been amazing. But it's also just, like, that larger question of how do you sell people on something, that isn't something that they already like.
Yeah, it's a difficult area to be in. And it's not to say that what you're doing isn't mind-blowing, but it's got to be something that really, like, fucking blows their mind. Or it has to build. Like, maybe it is fucking mind-blowing. They just don't, like, get it right now, or they don't realize how great it is from what you're reading about,
Oh, yeah.
So it's interesting to see when you go in a different direction after doing something that was, like, more mainstream. It's like with Transgression. Anytime we do something that's mainstream title, man, people love that shit. They're there. No big deal, But we did Southern Gothic literature, and we had half the audience that we normally do.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't take a chance. They don't
give a shit. And that was like one of my. I mean, I love all the transgressions we've done, but that was like kind of the most important one to me.
Yeah,
because it was about like the South, and it was about literature in the South, and like at different time periods. It was just a very interesting transgression. People just didn't give a shit, and that's fine. I mean, 70 to 75 people gave a shit, and that's cool. Like,
yeah,
I really wish double that would have cared, because Clue, the first one, that had 150 people at it. Yeah. And then, the very next one, you're like, all right, hey, we got some momentum here. Let's do this. Nope. It's like,
and that's the takeaway. Yeah. That's the takeaway, is never, like, I think, and I think this is a larger issue as well, both online and just in general, is that the days of being able to rely on your fans, I'm quotation marks here, those days are over. People don't follow people as much as they used to. People don't show up for stuff.
Unless you're Rick and Morty.
Sure. But that's on a platform. That's on Adult Swim. That's on, like, I guess what I'm saying is, like, people don't like, I guess, follow you as much because there's no need for them, because there's another entertaining thing. There's something just as entertaining going on that same night, or there's some other thing vying for their attention. It's a world of distraction and fucking noise and like all these things vying just to entertain you, not to mention the other distractions of life.
Well, and also with those, what I think happens is, and I know I'm guilty of this a lot, is, you know, with all that noise going on for things that are local events, local creative stuff, you eventually go, oh yeah, they're doing another show. I'll catch the next one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is like truly the enemy right now of the creative or the artist or the performer is the crushing indifference of the world, because it's not enough to be good anymore. It's not enough to be great anymore. It's not enough to be brilliant anymore. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm not ascribing brilliance or greatness to myself, but I'm just saying that it's not enough anymore. It is dark fucking times for artists and performers right now. I would say that it is the grimmest times right now for people, unless you're like hot as fuck and have the goddamn voice of an angel. You know what I mean? Like, you got a real battle ahead of you. And I'm going to be 40 next year. Like, how much do I have left? Like, because I'm going to keep doing it this year, and I'm going to probably keep doing it next year. But how long do I have left before I take a look and survey the world around me and go, this sucks?
Like, I'm out of here.
I already work a corporate job.
Yeah.
I already work a 9 to 5. Do you know how seductive it is to just, like, unplug completely from the arts community and the performing arts community and just not involve myself anymore? But like, I feel like that would truly be a type of death.
Yeah.
You know, so regardless of how indifferent the world seems to all this stuff, I just, like, that's my motivating force right now. I cannot die that particular death.
Yeah. I've thought about that a lot. When I hit 30, I said I'm going to work my ass off for a decade. And I'm 36. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I'm more than halfway through. But yeah, I think about that sometimes. I look at it and I go, am I going to be obsolete? Will I be irrelevant when I hit 40? Is that going to become the world that I live in? But there's another angle of it, though. You look at how things are now, and I think it just makes us more innovative. You know, we have to sit there and go, all right, I kicked ass for 3 years, and it was radical, so I decided to pivot, and now no one gives a fuck. Okay. So it's like, hey, if you pivoted into it, you got to pivot out. Now, I'm not saying that you pivot back, but what do you do from there? You know, it's like, okay, well, how do we change? How do we adapt? But still stay true. I mean, it's you know, it's a very, very fine line that you're walking to be able to pull this off. But I think I find that intriguing, though, for me. Like, when I do something and it doesn't work, I go, huh, like, how can I make this better? How can I make people care or realize the vision behind what we're doing? And, you know, for every project and every person, there's a different answer, you know. But I think the key is to, you know, fail better, you know, fail better, and then, all right, cool. Because that's the problem when we're successful at things, like, kind of out the gates. You're like, fuck, man, I didn't realize how good I had.
I do not trust if something gets successful very quickly.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation that you bring up, and I like it, and I think about it often of how do you stay relevant but still stay true to yourself.
Oh, well, I mean
it's fucking.
I'm gonna be. I have a little bit of a difference of opinion about the fail differently thing. My take on it is I guess threefold. Number one, and I'm just speaking for myself, and I'm not even speaking for Julian, my partner, because he's an amazing comedian, you know, all this stuff. Like, so I'm just talking about my own experience.
This is a judgment-free zone, Jason.
Sure.
You're loved here, buddy.
No, and I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, like, here's my mentality about it. Number one, I'm fucked. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm 40 or I'm 39, still trying to fucking write comedy and shit. Nobody knows who the fuck I am outside of Atlanta. People barely know who the fuck I am inside of Atlanta. I ran a cool show for 3 years and it's over, right? Okay, so that's point number one.
Okay.
All right. But number two is the only person who can decide that it's over for me is me.
True.
Yeah.
So the only person who can really fucking call it is me. Sure. And so my third thing is I'm just gonna I'm gonna do it for the sake of doing it. It's not about, I guess, for me failing or succeeding.
Yeah.
It's more about just I fucking love being on stage. I love writing. I love comedy more than anything, any other kind of pursuit, I guess, at least any kind of interaction with the world, I have my own personal life, of course, my girlfriend Cherry, who I love, and we have a rich life together. I have a rich personal life. It's amazing. I'm really happy.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, my professional life, and I guess by professional I mean this creative stuff, like these shows and this writing, it's in a challenging place right now. But I still love it, and so I'm going to continue to do it regardless of how fucked I am. Because it's much like in the same way that we just continue going about our lives even though we're going to die. I fucking think about dying all the time.
I do too. It's fine,
but not in a scared way or a sad way or anything like that. It's more just just trying to stay mindful of the fact that this has an end. Keep things in perspective. I keep thinking about all this fucking stuff that's going on right now politically. In America, I don't even want to say his name, but I was thinking the other day, 100 years from now, it's really going to be a footnote, and then 500 years from now, truly a footnote.
Yeah.
And then 1,000. You get the picture.
Totally, yeah. I mean, it's this too shall pass, the kind of thing.
Exactly.
But I like your outlook, though. I feel like when you get to the point where you realize that, hey, man, I'm not doing this shit to be cool. I'm not doing this shit to be popular. I'm not doing this shit to make money. I'm only doing it for the love of the game. I fucking love this shit. Hey, it's
the
true.
love of the game.
No, that is totally true.
It is.
It's true. I love the love of the game.
It's what came out of my mouth. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth until it comes out.
Such a perfect.
But
it's so perfect.
It's true. It is the fucking game.
Yeah.
It's the art game. It's the lit game.
Well,
it's
because when you
whatever.
have those moments when you have that event where barely anyone is there, you put out, you have that transgression where it was not as well as tended it should have been. It's you don't have that I'm just going to stop. You don't have that because it's I don't know how to stop. I just know how to keep going.
Exactly. Yeah.
To the detriment of your bank account and relationships and your personal health. But it's why the fuck not, man? It's once you get that fucking bug.
Because we're all going to die one day.
Yeah. It's I think about that all. You're talking about the thing about dying. I think about that. I'm all right, man, so I'm 36. Whew, hope I can get another 34 more years out of this motherfucker. What else can I do?
Yeah.
What am I going to be doing in 5 years? What am I going to be doing in 10 years? That excites me of where, when we go down these rabbit holes of working on projects. So you're sitting there, you're working on this project, you're doing Mallory Modugno Presents, and you're all right, this thing is... It's not pulling, and we love it, so we're going to do it for a while, and then maybe it ends, but then it turns into something else, and then all of a sudden you're 3 steps away from it, and you're oh man, this is crazy. We're doing this really rad thing now that everybody's super into, and it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't done Mallory and Modugno Presents, because that was the seed. So I always backtrack things a lot in my mind. I'm like, how did I get here? And so I think about that a lot, and I realize that actually where I am in my life currently, professionally and even creatively, came from this very fucking big failure I had 6 years ago that no one even remembers, but I remember it, and I look at that and I go, man, that was an awesome failure, and I'm so grateful that happen. And it was a failed project that lasted for 3 months that nobody even fucking knew about, but I learned so many cool things out of that project, and that it really changed the course of my life. And so I like to think about things that way. Granted, I'm also a fucking eternal optimist. I see the goddamn silver lining and shit on the side of the road. So,
sure, yeah.
So I mean that doesn't hurt
so
me.
So it cheers you to think, had it not been for the negatives, this positive outcome would have not have happened, essentially.
everything in my life that's currently amazing came out of like a shitstorm of terrible things that I thought were terrible at the time. You know, failed project, failed relationships, job I hated. Like literally about 7 years ago. But it was because of those things that it opened the doors for other things, you know, when somebody kicks you to the curb, hey man, you got a whole lot of options going on in your life. You got a whole lot more free time. You know what I mean? Things like that. It's like,
yeah, you're on the curb now.
Yeah, you're on the curb. Yeah, you can walk down the street, or you know, when you're looking at like a failed project, you're sitting there, you're thinking about it, and you're like, why'd that fail? And so you have an option there. You can break down all the reasons why it failed, and you can go, well, I suck, and I'm done. Yeah. Or you can go, I know what I did wrong there. I'm gonna do that differently next time. You know, and that's how I mean, because what else are you gonna do? That's what I always tell people. We're talking about art projects. People get really, you know, we're past the point of being afraid to try something. You know, we've been doing this shit for a long time now.
Yeah.
But there's so many people out there that are terrified to, you know, start their t-shirt company or start their own reading series. And I always tell people, I say, what else would you be doing?
True.
Like, you go to your job and then you come home and watch Netflix like the rest of us. I get to watch like Netflix like 2 hours a night. I do a lot of shit. I still got time. So, I mean, I couldn't even imagine watching Netflix more than that. Might as well start your fucking project. Like, what do you got to lose, man? Like, what? Worst case scenario, nobody gives a shit?
Well, no, I like this because it's kind of like no matter what, it matters. If there's only 10 people that show up, you start a reading series, it doesn't work, it still matters. Might matter to a couple people there. It's going to at least matter to yourself, and something will come out of that because people will see that hustle, people will be inspired, and it will bring something up to it eventually. So it's kind of like, even in failure, stuff's going to come of it, so just never stop.
Well, I guess my barometer for failure or success really boils down to due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that if you're creating, you know, you owe it to the work to do your due diligence to bring its level of quality up, you know?
Definitely.
And so as long as you can look back on what you've done and say, I did my due diligence, I took the steps, I went through the process of refining. I didn't just use my first draft. I didn't just use my first take. You know, like I took time. I like sat with the material. I spent some time on it. You know, like I tried to produce something of quality. Then it's not a failure. I would venture to say that fucking something that sucks that's performed in front of 1,000 people versus something that's incredible that's performed in front of 20 people, you know, I would say the 20 people is the success and the 1,000-person audience is the failure. Because, you know, here's the other thing, too, is like a lot of these shows, you know, or a lot of these performances, it's like you look back on them and there's a lot of times where I'll see a stand-up comedian or I'll see like a writer perform their piece, and my litmus test for quality is I'll give myself a day and then I'll try to remember anything they said.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a lot of stuff gets applauded, a lot of stuff gets an audience reaction, but then if you can't remember a single thing they talked about or a single thing they said, and I mean years later, of course, you're going to forget.
Yeah.
Chris Rock, my favorite comedian, I couldn't, you know, like, well, actually, I could tell you. I could tell you. That's a bad example. That's a bad example. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I guess what I'm saying is like,
slap her with a dick, slap her with a dick.
Sure. Yeah. You remember. Yeah.
I remember that shit from like 10 years ago, longer than that.
But if you know, if somebody gets up on stage and says something and holds the attention of an audience, but then 24 hours later you can't remember anything they said, I would say that they aren't really offering something of quality.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know though. That kind of sounds. It's like I'm second guessing that now because it's like, well, they're entertaining the shit out of that audience at the time though, so maybe it is of quality. And then it makes me start to ask questions about
quality is
like,
objective.
You know, quality,
it's objective to the person. I wrote this really bullshit story years ago about a pinball machine, and it was about a KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken pinball machine, and these two guys having an argument about fast food and how it changed one guy's life. And it's like this completely stupid story, and I read it at something, and it was like I had a lot of time to read, and I had a bunch of stories on me, and I was like, I'll read the pinball story, and it's bullshit. And like a year later, this girl was like, hey, I saw you read one time, and you said this line, and it was really amazing. And I was like, really? Where was it? And I started asking, I was like, I can't remember what the piece was. And I was sitting there, and I realized that I had this very like profound piece, or this profound line, kind of more pertaining to the meaning of life versus like fast food and pinball machines that I had put in the piece. And she was like, this line was so good, I wrote it down and I carried it in my purse. And I did the worst thing you could possibly do. I went, oh man, that thing was fucking terrible. It was about pinball machines and KFC. But it was interesting though, and I felt bad about it. And we even had a conversation because she told her friend that I was like flippant.
Sure.
And it was like this weird thing, and I saw her again 6 months after the fact, and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry. That was just a really dumb story.
That's why I hate talking about my performances or my work sometimes with people, because it's very tough sometimes to like, you're kind of on the spot, right? Like this lady had been carrying around this thing in her purse, carrying around this line. It's a very important line to her. Yeah. You know, and then I just devalued it. Yeah, it's just like this one-off conversation. It went south, you know?
Yeah.
You didn't ruin it for her, though, did you? I mean, she still liked the line, right?
She still liked the line. She had just gone through like a breakup, and this thing was like stuck out to her, but it was just like funny because it was like the most meaningful line in this ridiculous story.
What's the line? Let's hear it. Let's hear this famous line.
I'd have to find it. I don't even know what it is. But I was just thinking
about lady over here with her
I was thinking about the ability though to be able to like say something impactful. But I just found it really interesting that I saw this really impactful thing in like the most ridiculous story. And I remember I read like 4 stories that day.
Yeah.
And like that was easily the dumbest story, but apparently it just had this line that stuck with this lady. Very sweet human being, very nice person. I just felt bad about it, but it's interesting to see what comes out of a piece and what sticks with people. So maybe for you, you know, you listen to something and something's really entertaining. Maybe you don't remember it, but you never know. Like I couldn't even remember my own goddamn story, but this girl did.
I would speak to this then. Had you done your due diligence to the work, there might have been many other lines that she would have remembered as well.
But my due diligence to the story was talking about fast food. That was the problem.
Anything can be a work of quality.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like it was very quality, but I mean, I think like...
I mean, the minute you're talking about fast food, I mean, I know my mind goes immediately to arguments from Pulp Fiction.
Oh, was that about...
the Royale cheese.
The Royale
exactly.
Well, I didn't know if it was...
just bullshit stuff, but it lasts with you.
I didn't know if it was like the Big Kahuna Burger. But
you yourself just now told us, you know, that you didn't spend... That you weren't bringing your A game. This is your own assessment of the work. You know what I mean?
My own assessment of the work was I was in a period in my life where I like to write really weird shit that was like ridiculous and silly, and I tried to include the work. I tried to include Kentucky into like every story I wrote for a year.
That's fun.
So it was just this goal. Actually, my first chapbook, Slow Burn, which Matt put out, it was all about Kentucky.
Yeah.
And a lot of those stories that I wrote that year were from that. But it was just, I guess I was just thinking about like the things that stand out to people, you know, and that's just, it's weird what stands out to people.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting because you'll never know, like it might not stand out to you, even with your own work or somebody else that you're hosting, and maybe you're like, that's a pretty cool story, like whatever, it's forgettable in my mind.
I mean, that's why you really never own anything you put out there. I mean, once there's an audience for it, it's theirs, however they take it.
That is true. It is free. They're free to interpret it as they see fit, you know. And I don't know. I guess as far as that whole thing about being able to remember stuff, it has served me well at the very least. You know, it's not 100% true all the time, but I feel like it's a pretty good indicator.
Totally.
Like if I can recall it the next day or a few days later, then that really, you know, I'm pretty like I feel like that person has made something interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I've seen a lot of performances. I've seen a lot of readers read. I've seen a lot of comedians do comedy. I've seen a lot of people just talk on stage. I've seen a lot of plays. You know, like, so I guess it kind of gets to
running 2 shows a month for years. Jesus.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Sure.
Can you remember anything that I have ever read on the stage?
Oh yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah.
What you got? What you got?
I remember your the train car thing that you read at the
The 500. Was it the 500 reading?
No, you read it as Scene Missing.
The train car.
I think it was around this time of year, actually.
What was it?
It was about a girl and like a train car, and I mean this was like...
Was she like tied to the tracks?
No, this was like in the infancy of Scene Missing, but I remember a train car, and I remember... I think I remember what you were wearing. You were wearing like a black leather jacket, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. What's her name from...
Oh, what's her name?
I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. I mean, I was just trying to recall her name.
Yeah.
And whenever I try to recall somebody's name, I say, "Oh, what's his name?"
Yeah.
I remember she shared that story about knifing somebody at the same thing. She used to work for damn HuffPo and all that stuff.
Oh God,
You know what I'm talking about. I guess what I'm saying is I'm trying to remember details.
Now
of the
I
show.
got to remember. I can't remember the train car story.
Yeah.
Well, I remember a piece. I actually remember a few things you've written. I remember like you had like this piece that you read about strippers and cupcakes and Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm. I remember that one.
Yeah, and then I remember you did like the greatest fan fiction Ninja Turtle piece ever. He's like the turtles like in an orgy with April.
Yeah.
that was great.
I do remember that. It was.
I was in that reading. I did a Ninja Turtle piece for that reading too.
That was an Ninja Turtle show.
That was the Ninja Turtle show, but you didn't host it. But you read at it.
Yeah,
and that was awesome. But you know, I do that. It's an interesting thing that you talk about, like bringing up like what you remember. Because Matt, his two biggest pieces that I always remember is he wrote a Kurt Cobain piece, which actually there's a poster for it hanging on my wall because I love it so much. And then your Pope piece.
Yeah.
I love the Pope piece.
I always get that one brought up.
It's so good, but it's so memorable. I think it's because you say Pope like 100 times in the
and I'm a quiet guy who suddenly starts screaming at the audience.
You guys are very memorable readers, you know, to watch. I've enjoyed both of you guys over the years. I'm not just saying that because we're sitting here on a podcast, because if you weren't, I wouldn't say that.
Sure.
No, I really enjoyed you all over the years.
I will say that performance-wise, I've changed what I'm trying to do dramatically over the last few years. Like that piece you were talking about, Santa Claus and strippers and all that stuff. You know, I think in a lot of ways I was trying to appeal to the lit crowd, and the lit crowd, in my opinion, isn't as receptive always to things that veer outside of traditional formats of writing.
Yeah,
I agree.
So I was trying to fit my sensibilities into the context of lit stuff. So a lot of it was like anecdotes.
Yeah.
A lot of it was stories. A lot of it was personal, because I feel like the lit scene really encourages personal stories.
Yeah.
You know,
very memoir-esque here in Atlanta.
Memoir-esque,
Yeah.
yes, very memoir-esque. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to fit into that whole memoir thing.
Yeah.
And I liked the piece. I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed writing it. I enjoyed performing it. You know,
It was really funny.
Yeah, thank you.
You read it at Music Room. I can still see it in my brain, and I remember it just kept going.
Well, I will say though that, like, you know, I have had a few experiences where I tried out stranger stuff, you know, or more experimental stuff that I liked a lot, and lit audiences hated the shit out of it.
Like what?
I don't know. It's hard to bring up specific examples because it's been a minute since I've read a challenging.
Do you have them on your phone?
No.
Do you want to read something?
You want me to read something?
You got something? You know, we do this.
Yeah.
We didn't bring it up.
Yeah.
Because you've been all over.
Well, I don't have any of those things.
Okay.
I don't have,
what you got? What do you have?
Well, lately I've been writing. Scene Missing took a transformation to Scene and Song.
Yeah.
And I moved off WordPress, put it on Medium.
I've been seeing your Medium articles. They're ridiculous.
Medium's easy as hell to publish to. I don't have to be my own coder anymore.
I've got a couple articles for Blackout on Medium, and it's pretty sweet. Like they get a good life. I'll get like emails every once in a while. It's like, hey, you had 10 people read your article this week. I was like, I wrote that article 2 years ago. That's awesome.
Medium's great.
Yeah.
Actually, and then I have been publishing other people's stuff. Like Chris Ledford, he wrote this piece on like he's written a couple different pieces, and they actually blew up on Medium. They performed really, really well.
Who wrote the Dragon Con piece? Was that you?
That was me. Yeah,
that was great. And then you had the what was the Atlanta piece you wrote? What was that?
The Atlanta Neighborhoods.
The Atlanta Neighborhoods.
You like the Atlanta Neighborhoods?
Yeah, you like it's like you're like, oh, he's getting into this, and then it's like veers like off like left field. It's like completely ridiculous. I didn't read all the Dragon Con. I got through about 10 people on the Dragon Con one.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I just read fucking 10 profiles on people and like their thoughts on going to Dragon Con for however many years. I was like, I kind of scrolled through the other ones, but I like,
you go back and read it now.
I
Go finish the article.
Hey, fuck you, man. I read like 10 profiles of Dragon Con people, and that took me like 10 minutes. That is like an eternity on the internet.
Yeah, no, the Dragon Con article did really well.
It was rad. I loved it.
But typically, brevity is what people like on the internet.
Hey, if I give you 10 minutes, dude, like I'm like, I'm yours.
Okay. Well, usually I try to keep stuff to like a 4-minute read, 1 minute, 2 minute.
That was a long article. I mean, how many people did you profile on there?
A ton of people. I don't even remember. Like,
there was a shit ton, dude.
Well, I love Dragon Con.
No, I mean, it was great. I mean, I was like, hey, I got through 10 of these, and I scrolled through and I kind of paused at people that I knew on the list that you had. But no, I love what you're doing on Medium. I thought it was interesting when I started seeing it pop up. I thought that was cool.
So you guys get people to read on every episode?
Not every episode.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like if you want to.
I don't know.
I want to put you on the spot.
I'm having fun talking to you guys. I'd rather just shoot the shit.
We can just hang.
Yeah.
Can you edit out the part where I didn't read?
Yeah.
And now Jason Mallory is not going to read.
No.
Well, here's the cool thing, though, and I don't think we didn't talk about this on while we were recording, but you had offered before we started recording to give us all of the like as many scene missing, song missing.
You're probably having the same thought that I'm having right now.
What's that? Oh, throw in some of those recordings?
No, actually, next season, why don't we do a scene missing episode?
Oh, dude, that'd be sick.
How would that work?
Well, we'll play some audio
yeah.
from it, and we can discuss it. Maybe even bring the writers on who.
That would be really cool. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. That'd be awesome. I think it'd be really fun because we've had you, but we didn't have Julian, and we had Mike, and we didn't have Nick. So it'd be fun to kind of theme our episodes because the other side of it is like you could basically do a scene missing reading on the podcast. You just don't have to go to the show; you just listen to it. So
I tell you what, I will read something for you guys if you want.
Fuck yeah! What you got?
The Pizza Wizard article. Did you see that one?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Okay, is new. It's new on the site. It actually did pretty well. Let me pull
on
it
the
up.
site. Is this Medium?
Yeah, this Medium site.
Which I have no idea.
Okay, so it's essentially like the.
It's like it's like LiveJournal for adults.
Ooh.
What do you think about that?
No, thank you.
No. Hey, I started my writing career on LiveJournal, baby.
Russia bought LiveJournal.
Russia did?
Yeah.
All right. So what are you going to read for us?
Okay, so I'm going to read. All right. It's called "I regret to inform you that a pizza wizard has cast a spell on you," and then the subheader is, "It is with sincere regret that I must let you know that you are the victim of pizza sorcery." And then, so here's the thing.
Do it. Go. Roll with it.
I regret to inform you that a pizza wizard has cast a spell on you from his car. He pulled up next to you at a red light, waved a slice of pizza at you, and muttered the following incantation. "Red sauce cheese, pepperoni crust. These are the toppings that I trust. Here's an inconvenient truth. Al Gore's pizza's on the roof. Just like that scene in Breaking Bad. Heisenberg pizza for your dad. Pizza skeleton, pizza hearse. You'll never break this pizza curse." So that's the incantation that he muttered. So now you're cursed, by the pizza wizard. But it's not all bad. So here are some of the side effects that you can expect from this pizza wizard's throwaway spell that he cast on you simply because he didn't want the cops to see him texting and driving and he needed something to occupy his hands. So these are the side effects from this pizza curse. All right, we got pepperoni nymphs always beckoning you to come swim in the tomato sauce with them. That's one. You now speak the language of pizza dragons, but they're extinct, so you got to talk to a pizza lizard instead, and they sound dumb as hell. Betsy DeVos's famous, "Now where do I find the pencils?" quote has been changed to, "Now where do I find the pizza?" If you go to jail, Domino's the Noid character emerges from a nearby pizza, and he's wearing a suit. He's your defense lawyer. How will you plead in court? Guilty? Not guilty? Meat lovers? Uh-oh, Olivia Benson is here. Is this an SVU case? Her hair is done up in a twist around a breadstick, so it must be about this pizza wizard bullshit. You can now walk on pizza just as Jesus walked on water. If this pizza is also on water, then Jesus gets a penalty and has to leave a second set of footprints. Pizza in the morning, pizza in the evening, pizza at supper time. When pizza's on a bagel, it can only mean one thing. The bagel rog has awakened from its 1,000-year slumber. Quick, here's a shield made of Totinos. Try not to get bit, because this time the bagel bites you. All chefs you encounter must make the thumb and forefinger okay sign at you, just like on the pizza box. If you buy a bag of weed, it vanishes and reappears in the background of a dream about pizza 3 days later. And finally, you can only be awakened by true pizza's kiss. And that's it. That's all the side effects from the pizza wizard curse.
That doesn't sound like it's such a terrible curse.
It's pretty good. It's a pretty good curse to have.
Yeah, it's like a fun curse.
A lot of people don't like that Jesus line, but I think it's...
Oh, it's great.
I think it's one of
Did you get some feedback on that? Some negative feedback?
I think it was called sacrilegious at one point, but, I mean, it's... You know,
how many great things have been called sacrilegious,
deal,
though?
yeah.
I think Jesus would think that was funny.
The thing about reading that piece, though, is that's the first time I've ever read it out loud.
Is it weird?
No, it's just I've noticed that there's a huge difference, because when you write for the internet, you're writing for the voice of the person that's in their head, which is kind of a universal voice.
Which might be, to some people, is considered Jesus.
You think it's considered? You think it's the voice of Jesus?
It's the Holy Spirit.
Sure.
You
think the voice, when you read a book, you think that's Jesus reading the book to you? Who is what? You think Jesus is reading this book? You think what is it?
Potentially, if it's the Bible.
John Grisham. Jesus is coming in here. He's doing the audiobook for you in your head.
Who does it? Who would do a better narration of any book, especially a John Grisham book? Was that like Pelican Brief, shit like that? Was that John Grisham?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I want to hear Jesus read the Pelican Brief.
I don't think anybody knows what his voice sounds like.
Sounds fucking awesome, I bet. He's fucking Jesus.
He's probably hanging out with the Noid and
Hey, Sermon on the Mount? Sermon on the Mount? Come on, dude. Jesus must have had a badass voice to get all those people out there.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like Jesus' voice must have been...
What if his voice is just like Seth Rogen's laugh nonstop?
Sure. I mean, why not, right? We don't know.
Listening to Jesus is like watching Knocked Up.
You know what? Honestly, I think Jesus' voice sounded like? Competent.
Yeah.
I think that this is this current age, these dark times we're living in, it's the incompetence is riding tall in the saddle.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I naturally, these days, I associate good, like the forces of good, I associate them with competence.
Yeah.
And I guess Jesus, ultimate dude on the force of good, so surely he must have sounded real fucking competent and real matter of fact. You know? Like, you probably, when you heard his voice, you probably were like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
This guy's got some good ideas.
That's a well-formed thought.
Yeah, this guy's not going to charge or challenge Rex Tillerson to an IQ test. You know what I mean? Like, he sounds like a competent motherfucker.
He's not going to try to build a wall, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So, and I almost did it. I almost made it through this whole podcast without bringing him up.
I know.
I think I brought him up one time before, but we made it so far.
We only brought it. You brought him up, but you didn't say his name, so it's fine.
He might be out by the time this airs, right?
He might be listening.
Yeah,
probably not. Probably not.
Do you think he knows what a podcast is? Do you think Trump knows what a podcast even is?
Probably.
No. I don't think so. If you have people bringing you printouts of the daily news,
does,
you know what the podcast is.
I'm sure there's Fox News podcast, right?
God. All right. We got to put... You
want to wrap it up?
Nip this in the bud. I don't want to talk about Fox News.
Jason Mallory, thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
This was a real pleasure.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Which also, do you want to, before we go off, you want to plug anything?
If this is on the air before
November, it will.
Yeah.
If this is on the air, okay, November 11th at the Music Room.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Modugno and Mallory. Actually, I think we're going to call it, we're changing up the title. We're going to call it Tonight with Modugno and Mallory.
Okay.
It's a live comedy talk show. We have celebrity guests that we have every month. Like last month we had Dedrick Flynn as an omnipotent dragon.
Oh, that sounds awesome.
It was amazing. It was for 9to5.tv. Katie Hughes was Tilda Swinton. Amber North was Kanye West. And so, of course, this month we're going to have more local performers as our celebrity guests. It's going to be great. So,
what's the theme of this month's show?
We don't know yet.
You're still working it out.
I mean, we have our people, but we're waiting to hear back from a few people. So, and unlike previous, for example, we had this can't hardly wait bot. Prior to the show before, we had this episode about Krista Carruthers played a robot whose entire intelligence, artificial intelligence, was based on viewings of Can't Hardly Wait. So it was this robot that reacted to everything through the cipher of Can't Hardly Wait. And then at that same show, we had God, who do we have?
And you wonder why people don't show up.
I thought people would show up. I thought people would be like, oh, a robot whose entire worldview is shaped by the movie Can't Hardly Wait is going to be interacting with God, I cannot believe I'm forgetting the other people that were on the show. It's all I can see is Krista as this Can't Hardly Wait robot. But anyway, so yeah, I thought people were going to love it. Turns out I was the one who was wrong about...
But here's the thing, though. We're pushing 40, and the people that come out of these things are average age 23?
Sure.
So you're looking at... That movie probably came out, potentially the year they were born.
Yeah, but, I mean, I would say...
They were, 2, you know?
But I would say it's like the other day, somebody made a joke about the Flintstones. Some kid, some millennial, I saw on Twitter making a joke about the Flintstones. And I was like, how the fuck does this millennial even know who the Flintstones are? Flintstones weren't even on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I do think that there are some cultural touchstones that make it through other generations, much in the same way that I know all about Andy Griffith, even though that shit was in black and white, you know?
But
oh, you're saying Can't Hardly Wait.
Are you comparing Andy Griffith to Can't Hardly Wait to Andy Griffith?
Yes, I am. I'm saying Can't Hardly Wait is as big of a cultural milestone
as Andy Griffith. But here's the thing. He had a resurgence, though, in the 80s and 90s with Matlock. God,
That's true.
I feel like we could have a whole episode on Matlock. But
sure.
So
one time Julian and I came up with this thing that was it was a movie called Murder, She Wright. And it was about Paul McCartney because he looks like Angela Lansbury.
Yeah, he does.
And it was the plot of the Santa Claus. You know how Santa Claus falls off the roof in the Santa Claus and Tim Allen has to take over?
Yeah, because he dies.
Yeah. So in our movie, Angela Lansbury falls off a roof onto Paul McCartney. And I don't know if she dies or not, but she can't be Angela. She can't be Jessica Fletcher anymore. So Paul McCartney has to take over, much like the Santa Claus. So if you like that, then come to Modugno and Mallory November 11th at the Music Room.
What time? 9 o'clock?
Probably
9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Tonight.
You'll see
Modugno and Mallory.
You'll see it in a Facebook ad that you won't see.
Yeah, Facebook ad. Go looking for the Facebook ad.
Go looking for a Facebook ad.
Google that.
Just Google that shit so you get some cookies on there so it'll pop up in your feed.
Yeah.
But Jason, always a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you
so
Thanks,
much
guys.
for.
Thank you very much.
I want to high five you.
Yeah,
Let's get
of course. Thank you, and a high five for you as well.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. Thank you all so much for listening. Matt, any final words?
We hope you enjoy the episode.
Peace.